I came across this story, and what struck me immediately was how carefully it's told. There's a precision to it, a kind of quiet exhaustion that shapes every sentence. Let me share it with you, because this is the kind of narrative that reveals something about the invisible architecture of everyday life. This comes from a woman, 24 years old, living with her partner of 6 years. They have 2 children together, a daughter approaching her 2nd birthday and a 3-month-old son. Notice what she establishes first, not the problem itself, but the context. She tells us he works 12-hour shifts. She tells us she doesn't mind doing most things around the house. She tells us the 2 tasks he's claimed as his own, taking out the trash and cleaning the kitchen after she's put the children to bed. She's building a framework here, showing us she understands the division of labor, that she's not unreasonable, that she recognizes his contributions. This matters because what follows is shaped by that fairness. Here's where the story shifts. She says he won't just do things himself. Everything requires an ask. If the baby needs a diaper change and she's occupied, she has to request it. If their daughter needs lunch and she's breastfeeding the baby, she has to direct him to make it. He won't simply notice it's lunchtime and that a hungry toddler needs to eat. Let me pause here, because this detail carries weight. A functioning adult in a household with 2 children under 2 doesn't recognize mealtime patterns, doesn't see a full diaper, doesn't observe his partner's hands are literally full and step in without prompting. The narrator is documenting a kind of learned helplessness, or perhaps something else entirely. A deliberate choice to wait for instruction rather than claim agency. She continues. She's spoken to him about this pattern, and his response is to deny it exists. He insists he does what needs doing. Notice the gap between perception and reality here. She's living one experience, he's narrating another. And she wonders aloud whether depression might explain it, because she sees signs sometimes, though he says he feels fine. Then she offers her own theory. She thinks it's simpler than depression. She thinks he believes that because he works, his days off should be for rest. Not all the time, she clarifies, and not every single hour, but enough that the pattern persists. The story is building toward a question she doesn't quite ask directly, but it's there beneath everything. How do you get someone to be a partner without becoming a manager? How do you avoid what she calls nagging while still getting the help you need to survive 2 children under 2? And then she adds another layer. He doesn't spend much time with the children. He'd rather be doing something else. The baby is either in her arms or sitting in a chair. Her partner will hold his own infant son if she asks him to. She finds this wrong, and she's right too. This isn't about task division anymore. This is about presence, about whether he sees himself as a participant in his children's lives or a bystander who occasionally assists when directed. She closes her original post by saying she thinks he's suffering with something, but she can't force him to get help. Even here, even exhausted and frustrated, she's extending empathy, searching for an explanation that makes sense of his absence. The responses to her story are telling. One commenter suggests they both write down schedules of their days. She shares that when she and her husband did this early in their relationship, he was genuinely shocked at the length of her list. He hadn't realized the groceries didn't simply appear in the house. It had never occurred to him that errands happened during the day while he was at work. Think about what that reveals. The invisibility of domestic labor is so complete that a grown adult assumed food materialized through some unexamined process. Another commenter recommends specific readings. She divorced me because I left dishes by the sink, I do not help my wife, and the comic, you should have asked. The commenter emphasizes that parenting and housework are the responsibility of both parents. When one is at work and one is home, the one at home manages it. When both are home, they both do it. It's not her job with him helping. It's their shared life. The commenter asks a question that cuts to the center of everything. What kind of functioning adult has to be asked to change a baby? Parenting is full-time, essentially 24/7. Working a 12-hour shift doesn't grant exemption from the second shift at home. The commenter calls this pattern unsustainable, a recipe for major resentment unless he steps up and does his share. And they suggest something practical. She should leave the house for a few hours. Go to a spa, see a movie, have lunch alone. Leave him with the children. Not as punishment, but as necessary experience. So she can restore her sanity, and so he's forced into action, into understanding what she does every single day. The original poster responds simply, "Thanks, I'll try and get him to read them." Notice what's absent in that response. There's no confidence, no certainty, just the word try. Because she's already asked him to do so many things, and asking has worn her down to the point where she describes it as nagging, even though what she's requesting is basic partnership. This story stayed with me because of what it illuminates about the distribution of awareness. She sees everything. The baby's needs, the toddler's hunger, the kitchen that needs cleaning, the diapers running low, the approaching bedtime routine, the emotional absence of her partner, the possible depression he's experiencing, the excuses he offers, the weight of 2 children under 2, the invisible labor of keeping a household running. He sees his job and his days off. And when he's home, he waits for instructions. The commenters are right that this creates resentment, but it creates something else too. It creates a fundamental loneliness. She's partnered, but she's alone in the mental load, alone in the noticing, alone in the constant calculation of who needs what and when. He may be physically present, but he's opted out of the cognitive work of family life. And you can't build a partnership when only one person is carrying the map. What makes this narrative powerful is its restraint. She's not screaming. She's not issuing ultimatums. She's asking, very carefully, how to solve a problem that shouldn't exist. How to get a grown man to notice his own children without being told to look. Stories like this matter because they name what often goes unspoken. They show us the 1,000 invisible tasks that hold a household together and what happens when one person pretends not to see them. And they remind us that fairness in a relationship isn't about equality of hours worked outside the home. It's about shared responsibility for the life you're building together. The beauty of this story, if we can call it that, is that it forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. What does it mean to be present? What does partnership actually require? And how many people are living parallel lives in the same house, with one person managing everything while the other waits to be told what to do? This narrator deserves more than she's getting. And her children deserve a father who doesn't need to be asked to hold them. Whether he finds his way there or not, that's the story still being written. If this resonated with you, if you've lived some version of this story or know someone who has, leave a comment. Let's talk about what partnership actually looks like. And if you appreciated how this story was told, subscribe, because there are more narratives like this that deserve to be heard. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Title suggestions primary. He won't help unless I ask, and it's breaking me alt 1. My partner makes me beg for basic help with our kids, alt 2. I have to ask him to hold his own baby, alt 3. The invisible labor that's destroying my relationship.